April 2024 makes it 3 decades since the April 1994 Rwandan Genocide, when members of the majority Hutu ethnic group slaughtered an estimated 800,000 Hutus and members of a third ethnic group, the Twa, in one of the darkest massacre episodes in world history. A combination of colonial favouritism era towards the Tutsis that angered other groups, a media landscape that was also ripe for spreading hate speech, and slowness of the international community on its own part to respond to the crisis of all combined genocidal episodes which fueled this particular incident. You're welcome to the show. The show is Viewpoint, where we discover perspectives and embrace dialogue. You do well to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us across various social media platforms. On the show today, we have our international correspondent, Favour Eya. Join us in the next phase of the show. I'm Odiawa AI.
Excellencies, today we gather here at the Kigali Genocide Memorial to honor the memory of the victims of the genocide against the Tutsi. On this day, 30 years ago, over 1 million innocent lives were brutally taken in 100 days, with 250,000 souls finding their final resting place here at this memorial. You're joining millions of other Rwandans who are laying wreaths in countless memorials and graves throughout the country and abroad in remembrance of the lives that we've lost. Excellences, aujourd'hui vous rejoignez des millions d'autres Rwandais à travers le pays et au-delà pour honorer la mémoire de plus d'1 million de victimes du génocide contre les Tutsis, dont 250 000 ont trouvé leur dernière demeure ici, dans ce lieu dédié à leur mémoire. Excellency, in a moment, you will lay down your wreath to honor the victims of the genocide against the Tutsi. I would like to request the military band to guide us in this important moment. Excellencies, we invite you all to take a step forward towards the wreath and pay respect to the victims of the genocide against the Tutsi. Please take a moment of reflection as the military band plays the Rivari. Excellencies, thank you for honoring the innocent lives we've lost. Please proceed to the lighting of the flame of remembrance. Thank you.
Yeah, we took a glimpse of that 3+ minutes video, which actually stated the commemoration rather of the genocidal episode marking the 30th anniversary. There we saw Paul Kagame and various world leaders, also with his significant other, the First Lady, also actually representing to commemorate the event. On the show, I've got with me international correspondent Favour Eya, who will be telling us much more concerning what actually kick-started or sparked off or ignited this genocidal saga. Favour, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mr. Odiowa. Thank you for having me in the show.
Yeah.
I will start by saying that it's all good. It's all good now that it is in the past and we are remembering it. It's now a memorial.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't something good to experience, especially those in Rwanda as of the time. And talking about the background of the whole genocide thing that happened in Rwanda from the period of, let me say, it started as a civil war in 1990. Then it proceeded to war to become a very, like, it's a, I wanted to say it's suicidal, but no, a very bad genocide that took the lives of over 800,000. It wasn't a little thing. And I can say that it didn't start at the very point people thought it started. It was a thing of colonialism. When the Belgians were there, they did a lot of things that segregated those ethnicity in Rwanda, the Twa, the Tutsi, and the Hutus. And imagine a point that you have to use ID cards in order to show that you are from this place and I'm from the other place is a kind of bringing demarcation within people that are supposed to be united as a nation.
Okay. So will you actually say that these differences or identical differences, let me put it that way, was what actually caused the trigger for this genocidal escapade, particularly between the Hutus and the Tutsis?
I would say that Rome wasn't built in a day, the same way that so many things were not built in a day. It started from somewhere. This was a kind of like, it is a growth system. Something triggered it. So even looking at that time as well, we could see the period where the Tutsis were like, they were living elites. And they were minority groups, but they were elites during the colonial era. And this didn't sit well with the Hutus, and they themselves were the majority group, 85% of them making up the country, and they are not even in a very good state. I think that lasted until their revolt in 1959. Yeah, at the rise of independence in most African countries, they also revolted. And I as of when they got their independence in 1962, the Belgians were now left with no other option than to leave the government in the hands of the majority Hutus, and they now took it upon them to retaliate what has been done to them over the period that these colonial masters were around, because they were neglected, they were not given so many opportunities. So finally, power was in their hands, and they thought it well to now do back and gain back whatever that must have been taken from them, or whatever must have been deprived them. So, and also they now saw the Tutsis as their enemy, because that was a mindset, the demarcation created in their head, that these people, they are not our people. They took opportunities that we would have shared together, and because of that, they felt maybe, okay, you have enjoyed enough during the colonial period. Now it's our time, and not only being our time, we have to revenge for what you have done to us. They were called so many names, cockroaches, so many things, so many things. So I believe that it didn't start at the point that people thought it started. That was April 7th, 1994. It didn't start at that period. It started as far back as the colonial period.
So, okay, with all you've elaborated or expatiated, will it be right to say that ethnicity now was a major factor which instigated this genocidal occurrence to happen?
Yeah, it's not hidden. It's not something that is hidden. Looking straight at it, it's genocide. And when we are talking about genocide, it's heavy on trying to eliminate a particular group of people that has common let me say ancestors. So looking at what happened in Rwanda, we will see a situation where these people, they were just killing and discriminating based on ethnic lines. If you are from this place, you are already having problem. You don't even need to explain yourself. Aside being from that place, if you have a connection to that very tribe, your uncle, your father married, so you're already in pro. So it wasn't just a civil war that it started as, it escalated to genocide. People were killed not because they committed anything or they failed any of the law of the country. It was because they were from this particular part of the country and they belong to this particular ethnic group. So it was an ethnic war and it became a very bad genocide.
Okay, that's quite elaborate enough. Now, my point now is, why is it that even with these figures still counting, why is it that we in this part of the globe find it difficult to live as one? Because this thing must have been brewing a long time coming, even before the 100 Days War began with the Rwandan
Yeah.
Patriotic Front. Now, it's a case of people inciting people against the other. We still have such going on today where people
Mhm.
brainwash other people. Now, the media on its own
Yeah.
part definitely must have had a role to play. Were they for or against this genocidal escapade? For instance, now we have here in Nigeria now, during the military regime, whereby we wake up in the morning. Of course, I was a little kid back then, where it say fellow Nigerians. And once you hear fellow Nigerians, there's a new junta in town. Now, the point now is, how did the media fuel the genocide? Were they for the genocide or against the genocide, or were statements being made or misinterpreted or misrepresented to incite the genocidal attacks?
I will start by saying that the people neglect the power of media so much. We neglect what media can do. Looking at what happened in Rwanda, we could see this very radio station. I can't pronounce it very well. I think it's a French word, but is abbreviated RTL. It was a radio station that existed at that time, and it was handled by radical
Okay,
Hutus.
RTML, you mean Radio Television Libre
Yes,
do Mille Collines, right?
yes, yes. I said
Okay,
yes. I think that's French. I don't think it's language.
yeah,
So
apologies.
you this yeah, this was handled by radical Hutus, and what do they do there? Is not to is not to build up patriotism or give update on what's happening in the country. It was a media for hatred. They said so many things against the Tutsis on that radio station. They tell them what they are and what they are not, and where they belong and where they don't belong, and what people should do with them. On that very radio station, we saw cases where they were told that, oh, that the women from the Tutsi tribe, you can do anything you want with them, you can rape them, you can molest them, and they called these people so many names. They called them cockroaches, a lot of things, and they were instigating and instigating. And before the time, the president was killed on April 6, 1994, on a plane crash. They've already foretold it, a kind of prophecy that something like this is going to happen. And when it happens, not that is coming from this particular um side of the country. They were instigating so many things and telling people, preparing people that we are just innocently sitting at the comfort of their homes. We are preparing them for war. because just merely sitting down and you're hearing something that someone is trying to fight your tribe, oh, they are going to kill your president, and eventually it happens just as they said it. So it was like a prophetic decree that they made there, and it happened right in front of the people, and they took it as, oh, so this thing that this radio station has been saying over time is finally here. And that was how the little things they thought, oh, it's just an area station. We just come here and say so many things. The little things that they thought that it will not amount to nothing became something. And I could say that this radio station in particular has a big take, contributed a big deal to the starting of that very genocidal war.
Okay, that's to say even the instruments of violence and the instruments of perpetuating peace were even used to clamp down heavily on the Tutsis, which was quite unfavorable. Now, it's common knowledge that within any geographical region or continent or locale, whether on the Western Bloc or the Eastern Bloc or whatever continental or regional bloc in which a country might belong to, definitely countries should actually come into play. Now, for instance, now Rwanda, of course, it's a francophone country. It should speak French, judging from the videos which we watched earlier on. My point now is, what was the role of the international community? Because it's common knowledge, definitely, the global leaders were definitely aware of the genocidal attacks and refused to even intervene. We have the United Nations body which would actually disburse or deploy peacekeeping troops. Did we see that come to full functionality? Why? Because history has it that, like for instance, former UN Chief Ban Ki-moon, he said on the 20th anniversary of the genocidal attacks, organizations were still ashamed for its failure to prevent the genocidal attacks. Now, a body which is saddled with the responsibility of maintaining global peace refused to intervene. Even world leaders at the time, as at that time, even from this 30th commemoration, former President Bill Clinton has actually even stated that he regrets, or it's been one of the failures of his administration at the time. Why did even colonial masters, world leaders, or even international organizations such as the UN play this reluctant role in addressing the genocidal attacks?
It still baffles me on what happened during that very genocidal period and how the international community reacted to them. It was total silence, and I can't even figure out why. I can't figure out why they were acting as if there was a big guy up there telling them, don't even try to intervene. Nobody said anything until the Tutsis through the I think the RPF, yes, were able to stop the genocide by themselves and take over the government of Rwanda. That's where we now see the UN trying to come in using the ICTR, International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda. They now started, but during the period, the emergence, all the process, they were not there. They were just waiting for a miracle for Rwanda to find a way to help themselves. Nobody contributed, nobody said anything. So what they were now giving was after medicine. Yes, this thing, it has come, it has gone. So we now have to say something about it as an international organization, just like what you said about President Ban Ki-moon. We also saw what they did. I would say it came after, but as of the period of the genocide, nothing was actually done. If anything was done, it wasn't heavy and it wasn't significant. But then, like I said, I will figure out one of the aftermath of their help, the aftermath help, which is the ICT arrow that they build up in order to bring to book whosoever that must have partaken in the genocide, most especially the main organizers, the main actors of the genocide. So through this platform, they were able to bring these people to book, because after the war, most lawyers, most practitioners in Rwanda, they have fled the country. The ones that were remaining were like amateurs. So nothing was actually going to happen. So this very international platform was set up for Rwanda in order to bring justice and to bring to book everybody that must have contributed to the period of the genocide.
Okay, will it be right to say now that there was a country or a people or a section or a society of people or even probably the colonial masters benefiting from this war? Take, for instance, the Nigerian Civil War 1967 to 1970. We had the likes of Russia supplying southeastern Nigeria, which was trying to break away, which was the Biafran Front. Now, will we say that some people or some people in the international community were actually benefiting from this war? Actually, will we be right to say that?
Okay. So coming to that, I think it's not just peculiar to Rwanda. This scenario didn't just happen in Rwanda only. We've seen that case in Nigeria during the Nigerian Civil War. It was called the Nigerian Civil War. Others call it the Biafran War. But when we dig deep into this thing, we discovered that it was a genocidal act committed by the Nigerian government. But what? Nobody wants you to call it a genocide. Nobody wants you to call it any other thing aside the Nigerian Civil War. But it wasn't just a civil war. The same thing happened in Rwanda. You figured out a tribe, singled them out, and you were killing them in their thousands, in their numbers. And nobody wants you to call it a genocide. It's so obvious. So what are we trying to avoid? What are we want to nickname it the Rwandan Civil War or whatever, whereas it was an obvious genocide, just like what happened during the Holocaust. You cannot tell me it's a civil war between the Jews and the
The
Germans. It
Germans.
is an obvious, yeah, is an obvious genocide. So why should you call a genocide a civil war? It wasn't a civil war at all. Whosoever that wants to call that or decides to call that a civil war is actually deceiving the people and also themselves.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Favour. That was quite elaborate enough. From what you've just said now, what I can deduce is that oftentimes these genocidal attacks or wars inflicted upon a particular tribe might not necessarily be a case of wiping people out. There must be a cause behind the particular reason. And from my own opinion, I feel or think maybe it's a case of insecurity or inferiority complex, if I may put it that way. Because if you look at it, the Jews who were being exterminated on a genocidal note by the Germans, just to mention the Rwandans between the Hutus and Tutsis, or probably back here now here in Nigeria between the federal government and the Southeasterners, it's a case of inferiority complex or ethnic rivalry or ethnic inconvenience. Let me put it that way. Thank you, Favour Eya, for joining us on the show.
Thank you, thank you. I appreciate you.
All right. Now it's a case of what actually happened afterwards beyond the genocidal attacks. We had so many criminal courts, just as we heard from Favour Eya, the International Criminal Court, coming on board to try people. Even as we speak, people are still being tried, even at large. Now, how effective have the judgments been by the ICJ, the International Criminal Court of Justice? And the wounds, how have they healed? And the scars, will they ever leave from the hearts of the people who even witnessed, or the survivors who actually witnessed or barely managed to even escape almost a million massacre of a people for 100 days? The show has been Viewpoints, where we discover perspectives and embrace dialogue. We had Favour Eya on the show to talk about the 30th commemoration of the Rwandan Genocide. Until next time, I'll see you when you see me. But before that, you do well to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us across various social media platforms. Thanks for watching.